Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to talk to you about planning your big research paper by writing sections, smaller chunks, smaller chapters, if you will, of the paper. And maybe one of the best ways of understanding my approach is to think about a novelist who is trying to write a 300-page book, okay? That writer doesn't just sit down and start on page one with a blank screen and write the whole novel from beginning to end. Usually they think of it as sections, one chapter at a time. Well, in a way, that's the same challenge you have if you're writing a 6-page or 10-page research paper. A lot of students will start off with a blank screen and just freeze and go, how am I ever going to do this? The best way to do it is to break it into small sections and work on one section at a time. Maybe you're just going to work on a half-page introduction where the thesis is the last sentence in your introduction. That's one section of the paper. If you look at a 6-page formula college paper, you've got your introduction, and then you've got several reasons to agree with that main point or thesis, and we call them sub-arguments. Got a lot of different names. You could even call it a premise or just a reason to agree with the thesis. It sets off a chapter in your smaller paper, right? And if you think about those chapters as 2 pages at a time, you can write each one of those 2-page sections separately and then put them all together with nice transition sentences. That's what you're going to do for paper number 3 this semester. It's an accelerated class. I realize that we're all kind of, anticipating this big assignment at the end of the term, but it's not that big if you break it down into individual sections. And so paper number 3 is going to be a 2-page paper, a standalone argument paper by itself. Later, we'll take those 2 pages and plug them into the longer 6 or 10-page research paper, right? And later on, you're going to have to write several other 2-page sub-argument sections, reasons to agree with the thesis, chapters, if you will. And you can apply everything that you learn from this 2-page assignment to those sections later. But for right now, we're just going to focus on organizing and thinking ahead of time. And this is where the challenge comes in, the critical thinking. How do we create a skeleton outline of your main point and then reasons to agree with the main point that are sub-arguments? And that's what we're doing in this exercise today, is planning out 3 sub-arguments, one which will be paper number 3. We also had a previous assignment where I asked you on paper number 2, the definition paper, to define a key term. And so that's important too. Usually in the introduction of the paper, you have a little bit of definition. And so you may not be able to pull all of paper number 2 into your longer research paper, but you can borrow from it. So let's say you're writing about ADHD, and your overall main point is that there's a variety of different ways that someone who has a child's been diagnosed with ADHD can deal with the diagnosis, including diet and exercise and environment and exposure to digital media, all those different things that might affect a child. And those are all sub-arguments to develop the entire paper. But what is ADHD? That can be a big part of your introduction, setting up your thesis. And so that's why we experiment around with definition. And that's why your second paper was the definition paper, is to help you clarify key terms like that in your research paper. And so you may be able to use some of that. If nothing else, essay number 2, the definition paper, did get you to start doing research, to start thinking about your topic, and just get that kind of experimental process of developing a thesis and bringing in some evidence to support the thesis. And that's all good practice. That's what we're doing in this class. We're practicing writing the formal academic research paper style, step by step by step. And the best way you do that is just do a lot of writing. That's why we're doing all that writing on the discussion threads. The more you practice, and especially practice without being graded all the time, the more confident you become as a writer. So in a way, paper number 3, your first formal argument paper, is practice for writing the bigger argument paper, the 6 to 10 page research paper. because you're practicing how to bring in quotes and use MLA style to support your argument. You setting up the quotes with signal phrases, citing the quotes afterwards, building a works cited page. This is all part of the learning process that's going to set you up for success on the bigger research paper. If you have any questions at all, do not hesitate to send me an email and ask. But I think if you just work yourself through these exercises, it'll all kind of come together at the end of the semester, sort of like pieces of a big jigsaw puzzle where you've got your introduction, some of your sub-arguments, your conclusion, your works cited page. We'll be working on all of those parts of your research paper, and they'll all just kind of snap together as one great big project when you get to the end of my curriculum here. Hope that all makes sense. Again, any questions, do not hesitate to send me an email, okay?